Okay. So after the equality operator, we have something called as that is number fourth, and that is ASCII. Okay, so in the last class, I have told you that if you want, if whatever keys that you can see on the keyboard is associated with some kind of value, right? And that is called as ASCII value. Now, every time if I ask you that what is ASCII value of A, B, C, D, so you will go to Google and you will give me the answer, right? But you don't actually have to do it. Why? Because Python already has that function implemented. Okay, so suppose, so the function that you have to use is ORD, that is order, that is meant by ordinal. Okay, so if you want to know the ASCII value of A, so just put ORD inside a bracket A and execute it, and you will get the ASCII value of A. Okay, similarly, suppose if you want the ASCII value of, let's say, space, so space, the ASCII value is 32. If you want the ASCII value of, let's say, comma, 44. Okay, so like this, you will get the ASCII value of all the characters that you can see on the keyboard. Okay, if you want the ASCII value of 1, it is 49. If you want ASCII value of capital A, it is 65. All right, so this is how you convert the characters into the ASCII value. Now, actually what you can do is you can do other way around also. For example, if I give you the Unicode is nothing but the code, the representation. Okay, for example, so sorry, if I give, so there's a function called as character, CHR. What it does is it converts the ASCII value to characters. Okay, it's the other way around. For example, suppose you want to convert, let's say, 34 to an ASCII value. So 34 is nothing but it's a double inverted commas. Suppose if you want to go for 44, it is nothing but it's a comma. If you want to go for 97, it is nothing but it is A. So ORD, that stands for ordinal, will give you from a character a ASCII value. CHR will be the vice versa of that. So from a value, it will give a character. So that's what you mean by ASCII operators. This is the first one, and this is the second one. Okay, answer of this is nothing but it's true. Okay, great. So this is a fourth operator that we have. Then we will go with the fifth operator that is called as logical operators. That is nothing but AND and OR and NOT not. So guys, please note, people who are from the other programming background, there is no symbolic representation of and, or, and not. Okay, you have to literally write AND, OR, and NOT. Okay, so there is no symbolic representation of this in the Python. Okay, so before moving forward, everyone knows about the truth table, about the logical operators. For example, what I mean to say is, you know about what is and truth table, what is or truth table, or what is not truth table. Okay, so I will revise the topic from the basic. Okay, so don't worry. So what I will do is, so first there is something called is and operator. And operator. Now to remember this, now the only thing that you have to remember is the table, and the table is this. So and operator, and the only thing that you have to remember is this is a good table. That's it. This is the only thing that you have to remember. If you have remembered this, then your life is your logical operator is very easy. Now, how this works? This A and B think of as a two operands. Okay, operand in the sense, if I write, let's say, if I write x plus y. So this x is nothing but A, this y is nothing but B. Okay, so these are the two operands that we have. Now this A and B in the logical operators have a value of 0 and 1. So when A is 0 and B is 0, you get the output as 0. Okay. When A is 0 and B is 1, you get the output as 1. Now there's one more point that I have to make clear. That in a programming world, true, TRUE, is also represented as 1. False, FALSE, false is also represented as 0. Okay, so in the place of 0 and 0, I can write false and false also. So I can use the term other way around also. Okay, so don't get confused. Okay, so people who have got this point, so what is true and true? What is the output of true and true? Okay, the answer is true. Similarly, if you do true plus, sorry, not true plus, my bad. If you do true and false, what is the answer? Okay, so when you do true and false, so true and false, the answer is 1. So this is what you called as AND table. Okay, now when I used to be in a college days, so how I used to remember is I just used to do plus 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 and plus. Okay, I used to do plus 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 and plus. So this is what you mean by truth table. So 0 plus 0 is what? 0. 0 plus 1, 1. 1 plus 0, 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, which is also true. Okay, so this is just a remembering part, but that is not actually what happens behind the scene. Okay, and this is what we call as a truth table. Okay, and this is, oh, sorry. And the one which I have told you, where's the image? Yeah, this is the image. So this is which truth table? This is OR truth table, OR truth table. Okay, remember, or the representation is A plus B. So you have to add it. You have to add it. Similarly, on the same lines, if I go for the AND truth table, so let's go for, okay, the first one that we have is for AND. So you have, this is 0 and this is 0. The answer is 0. If this is 0 and this is 1, the answer is 0. So basically, in the AND truth table, you have to just do the multiplication. In the OR, you do plus, and in the AND, you just do multiplication. That's it. And you will get the answer. And you will get the answer. So this is what you mean by AND table, and this is what you mean by OR table. So this is clear to everyone. Those who didn't know about this, now it's clear. So this is the table that you have to remember. Okay. Now I have told you the tricks how to remember it. So let's move to the part now. So close this. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the AND operator. So now you have to tell me the value of it. So if it is true and true, what is the value? True and true is for the AND operator, it is true. true and false is false. What is false and true? False and true is also false. Then we have false and false. What is false and false? It is false. Okay, so this is a and truth table. Then we have or truth table. Same thing I will write here. So what is true or true? True or true is true. What is true or false? It is true. What is false or true? It is true. And what is false or false? It is false itself. Okay, so this is the and truth table or truth table. And the last one that we have is a not truth table. So not truth table is very straightforward. Okay, in a not truth table, if I write not of true, so the answer will be the opposite of that. So what is the opposite of true? False, right? So answer will be false. And if I do not of false, the answer is true. And this is the not truth table. Very simple. Okay, so this is what you have to remember when you work with the logical operators. So now let's say print true and false. The answer is false. Okay, so see, true and false, the answer is false. If you do print not of true, the answer is false. The answer is false. Sorry, not of true is false. My bad, guys. Sorry, typo error. So not of true is false. So basically it is the opposite of that. Okay, so sorry for that confusion. So yeah. So logical operators are clear to everyone. Okay. What is the answer for this? 10 less than 20. 10 less than 20 is true. True. And what is 10 equal to 20? It is false. It is false. So what not true and false is what? True and false is false. So answer of this is also false. Okay, so this is how you do this problem. Okay. Now, right now, if you have noticed, we are working with the logical operators in a form of true or false or 0 or 1s, correct? Now, what if this what if this value of a and b what we are using is some kind of numbers, or they are the value like say 100, 200, 300, then how this works? So there's a small deviation, guys. Okay, so I'm writing that if a and b are two values. Okay, I will not use this and, I will use this and, because this and is not, this is the English and. Okay, this is not a logical operator and this is the English and what I'm talking about. So a and b are two values. So if you do a and b, so this will be the result. So result will be a if a is false else B, else B. Okay, and the second is if it is A or B, result will be A if A is true, else B. Okay, so if A and B are two values, so on the top we have seen only false, true, or 0 or 1, right? But what if A and B are two values like 100, 200, 400, 500, like that? So this is how it will work. Let's try to understand this with the help of an example. Print 10 and 20. Okay. Now, the first confusion that you will have, that how to judge whether 10 is a false or a true. On the same case, 20 is a false or a true. So you remember this. Remember this, guys. This is the universal thing, okay? If it is an integer value, so 0 is false, 0 is false, and rest is true. The meaning of this is the value integer 0 is only considered as false. Other than any value till the infinite, till the from the negative to the positive, it is considered as true. If it is a float, then 0.0 is false and rest is true. If I talk about the string, in a string, empty string is a false and rest is true. If I talk about what is left, if I talk about complex numbers, then 0 plus 0j is false and rest is true. Okay, so this is the thing that you have to remember. So 10 is what? 10 is true or false? So if you convert 10 into Boolean, so answer will be true or false? It will be true. Same for 20, it will be true. So now 10 and 20. So value of A is 10 and value of B is 20. So as you can see here, value of A is 10 and value of B is 20. So result will be A if A is false, else B. So what will be the output of this line, guys, by seeing this definition? Okay, so answer will be 20. Why? Because result will be A if A is false. So right now A is not false, right? A is true. So answer will be B. Okay, great. What will be the answer of this? Okay, so see, this is A, which is 0. This is B, which is also 0.0. Okay. Now we are doing A and B. So we have to see this definition. Result will be A if A is false. So A is what? False or true? It's false, right? So answer will be A. So the answer will be A. So if I execute it, the answer is 0. Okay, so you have to go by this particular definition. Now same if I do for OR and OR. So give me both the answers. So the answer of this will be, let's see how many of you are correct. Answer is 10 and 0.0. So this is the small deviation that you have. And if the value is true and false, this is the value that you will get. So logical operator is clear to everyone. If not, what is the doubt? You can ask me. Okay, 10 or 21. Okay, see. 10 or 20. So for 10 or 20, first tell me, Atisham, that you will look for second line or third line. Which definition you will look for?
Third line.
Third line, perfect. So A or B. So what is A? A is 10 and B is 20, correct? So
Yes.
result will be A if A is true, so A is what? A is 10. So A is what? True or false?
Yeah, true, true.
True. So if A is true, result will be A. The answer is 10.
Yeah, got it.
So it doesn't look up, it doesn't look about the value for 20. It makes a decision based on the value of A itself. Similarly, for second one also, A is what? A is false, right? So A is true, then only A, else B. So A is false, the answer will be 0, 0.0. So answer is 0, 0.0. Okay, so this is how it works. The next topic that we're gonna cover, okay, so you will not use this operator anywhere in your life. That is called as a bitwise operator. Okay, and that is and or this symbol, then we have a cap symbol, and we have a more than and less than. These operators, 99.9%, I've worked for around 4 to 5 years, and in my life I've never used it. In a data science world also, you will not use this. Okay, you will use this whenever you are doing a scientific calculation or such stuff like that. But 99.9% you will never use this in your life. Okay, but we have things. So always having a knowledge is always good, right? So I will gonna teach this also. So when I talk about the bitwise operator, the first thing that you have to notice that it works on bit. And the second thing that you have to keep in mind is that it works only on integer values. Okay. So what is the bitwise operation? So let's talk about something called as bitwise and A and D and. So X is equal to 10, and suppose let's say Y we have equal to 4. The first thing that you have to do is you have to convert this 10 to its binary form. Binary is nothing but 1 and zeros. So you have to convert this 10 into the binary form. But the question is how you will do it. The answer is that we have a function for that also. So if you want to convert any integer value to binary number, you have to use a function bin. Inside this, put the number that you want to convert to binary. So binary of 10 and execute it. Okay. The first two things that you see is a representation of binary numbers, guys. So you have to ignore that. Okay. You have to ignore that. What is after there's after 0b, that is the part that you are interested in. So the binary number representation of 10 is nothing but it is 1010. Okay. So similarly, for for the binary representation of 4, can anyone tell me the answers? Do the same thing and tell me the answer. So if you do for the 4, so if I put 4 here and execute it, the answer is 0b100. But you don't have to consider 0b because this is just for the representation. The only part that you should be interested in is after that. That is 100, and that is 100. Okay. So this is the first step, that any number you take, any integer number you take, it has to be converted to its binary form. And this is the binary form of it. So this is step 1. Step 2. So for 10, the binary representation is 1, 1, 0, 1, 0. For 4, the binary representation is 0, 1, 0, 0. So what you have to do is you have to perform the AND operation on every bit now. So it's like addition. So if I tell you to add 400 plus 600, so what do? You add ones place, you add tens place, you add hundred place, right? Same here also. So what is 0 and 0? What is 0 and 0? The answer is 0. What is 1 and 0? One and 0, right? So if I scroll on top, 1 and 0 is what? It is false. Got it, Veena? Veena Tari? Yep. So this is also 0. What about this? This will be also 0. And this will be also 0. Okay. So you get the output as 0, 0, 0, 0. Then what you have to do is, this is step 2. So step 1 is convert to binary form. Then we have step 2, that is get the AND operation on each bit. Okay, and the step 3, the last step is convert binary answer to integer again. So how to do it? Inside a print statement, just write what is the answer. So 0, 0, 0, 0. And what is the notation for what is the operation for binary numbers? What is the notation? So if you remember, 0b is a notation, right? So you have to follow that notation, guys. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and before that, just put 0b. That's it. And you will get the answer. So if I do copy, paste, execute it, the answer is 0. The answer is 0. Okay. So the answer for this. So if I do print, if I do x and not add this and x and y, the answer is, sorry. X is equal to 10, y is equal to 4. Execute it and see the answer is 0. So what is happening behind the scene? This is what is happening behind the scene to get the answer as 0. Okay, to make you more confident in this, let me try to give you some more examples. So x is equal to, let's say, 10. No, 10 is already taken. So 7 and y is 11. So I want everyone to go step by step. Okay. The first one is you have to give me the binary representation of 7 and 11. So guys, quickly give me. Binary representation for 7 and binary representation of 11. So give me the representation, please. Okay, so according to the chat box, 7 is nothing but 1, 1, 1, and this is nothing but 1, 0, 1, 1. Great. Step 2. So after doing the step 2, I want the final bit answer. So I want the answer in binary, the final one. So what it is? So the answer of this is 0, 1, 1. Okay, and if you want to convert this into a binary, so step 3. Step 3 is convert this into an integer form. So if you take print of 0b and 0, 1, 1, execute it, and the answer is 3. Okay, answer is 3. So let's see what you have done is correct or not. So print 7 and 11. The answer is 3. So perfect. So you got the answer as 7 and 11. So this is what you called as bitwise AND, guys. Okay, bitwise AND. On the similar lines, we have something called as bitwise OR. Bitwise OR. And the symbol for bitwise OR is a pipe symbol. The straight line that you can see is a symbol of OR symbol. Okay. Now what I will do is I will copy the same thing because the steps are totally the same. So step 1 is convert to binary form. So this is the answer for it. Step 2, the only change that you have is instead of AND, you have to do the OR operation. So what is the answer for this, guys? If I do the OR operation, what is 0 and 0? So the final answer is what? 1, 0 is what? 1. This is also 1. This is also 1. And this is the 0. Just convert this. So step 3 is convert this into the binary form. So this will be what? It will be 1, 1, 1, 0. Let's see the output. So print of 0b1110 executed. The answer is 14. Let's try to rectify it. So print 10 or 4. The answer is 14. So this is what you call as bitwise OR. So we have seen about bitwise AND. We have seen about bitwise OR, that is OR. The next thing that we will see is bitwise XOR. Okay. Now again, to understand the XOR, the thing that you have to see is the truth table. So I will show you the truth table for XOR. XOR truth table. And this is the output for XOR truth table that you can see on here. So, oh, sorry. This is the output. Okay. So the output is very simple. If the two value of A and B are same, the output is 0. If they are different, the output is 1. See, if A is 0 and B is 0, the output is 0. Similarly, if A is 1 and B is 1, the output is 0. So for the XOR table, if both the value of A and B are same, the output is 0. Okay, and if it is different, the output is 1. So this is how you have to remember it. Again, 0, if both the output of A and B is same, the answer is 0. If it is different, the answer is 1. And this is what you mean by XOR tables. Okay, so I will come back again to this. So let's try to do bitwise XOR. And the symbol for bitwise XOR is a cap symbol, guys. The cap symbol, the symbol that you can see on the top of 6, that is called as a cap symbol. So 10, the binary form is 1010. For 4, it is 111100. Now the only thing what you have to do here is you have to put XOR here. So what is 0 and 0 for XOR? It is 0. What is 1 and 0 for XOR? 1. What is, so this is also 1, this is also 1. So unfortunately, that means coincidentally the answer is becoming same. So answer of this will be also, I think, same. So if I do print, let's say 10 and cap symbol 4 executed, the answer is 14. And the answer is 14 for the OR also. Okay. So this is how you have to do the XOR operation, guys. So bitwise and bitwise or and bitwise XOR is clear to everyone. All right. The next thing that we're gonna see. So let's see on the top what we have covered. So we have covered this operation, we have covered this operation, we have covered this operation, right? So now we will talk about these two operations. Okay, so what you have to do is bitwise right shift. And the symbol for the bitwise right shift is this. Two more than signs together. Okay. So how this works? So you have to just remember the formula, guys. And the formula is A of this and 2 raised to n. This is the simple formula that you have to remember. For example, if I say x is equal to 10, and if I do print x two. So if suppose a if a is this is the equation that is followed. This is the equation that is followed. So can anyone tell me the equation of this quickly? If you try to convert this into this form, how the equation will look like? See, this is a. So a is equivalent to x, right? So this will be 10. Then this. Then 2 raised to n. N is what? N is this, which is equivalent to 2. So 2. So this will be the answer. So if I copy this equation and if I paste here, the answer that you're getting is 0. Similarly, if you execute this, okay, this is not okay. The answer is 2. See, similarly, if you execute this, the answer is 2. So for the bitwise right shift, the only thing that you have to take care is you have to just remember this formula. That's it. If you know this formula, just substitute everything in this formula and you will get the answer very straightforward. So this is what we have bitwise right shift. Then we have something called as bitwise left shift. The symbol for left shift is more than sign 2 times. This will remain same. The only difference is this will be converted to a multiplication. That's it. So can anyone tell me the answer for this? Acha, okay, bitwise right shift, okay. So for the bitwise right shift, this is x equal to 10. Okay, x equal to 10. So what you are doing right now is you are telling that I want to do a bitwise right shift by 2 digits. Okay, by 2 places. So basically to get the answer of this, you have to use this equation. Okay, okay. Sorry. Okay, Ruma. So if you see, this is a representation of this, correct? So what you have to do is to get the answer, you have to substitute all the values this formula. So what is a here, guys? What is a here, Ruma? If this is the equation, what is a?
It's 10.
It's
Yeah.
10. What is n?
N is 2.
N is 2, right? So you have to just substitute in this formula. So this is 10 because this is a, right? 10 and 2 raised to n. So 2 raised to 2. So answer what you get is the answer for bitwise right shift. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Same for the bitwise left operators. The only thing that you have to use is you have to, in place of the floor division, you have to use the normal multiplication. So guys, tell me the answer of this quickly. First tell me the equation and then tell me the answer. Okay, so answer of this will be what? So if I reverse the sign, answer of this is 40. And what you get is also 40. So this is what we call as bitwise right shift and bitwise left shift. And if you see technically, you will not this, you will not use this anyway, because from the answer only you will get to know why. Then the last one that we have is bitwise not. Bitwise not. Okay, so how this works? Suppose you have x equal to 10. Suppose you have x equal to 10. So what you have to do is, the first step is, okay, the first step is add 1 to 10. So if you add 1 to 10, what is the answer that you get? 55. Okay. So if you add 1 to 10, the answer is 11. Okay, 10 plus 1 is 11. That's the first step. Second step is reverse the sign. So if you reverse the sign of 11, it will be minus 11. It will be minus 11. So the output of this will be also minus 11. So if I do print of so if I do print of bitwise not, the symbol is the tittle sign that you can see and the x. Okay, and execute it, the answer is minus 11. The answer is minus 11. Again, I will repeat, whatever number you have, first you have to add 1 to it. So the answer is 11. And reverse the sign. So sign is plus, right? So it is plus 11. So you have to do minus 11. So you have to reverse the sign of it. The answer is minus 11. The answer is minus 11. What is the answer of, if I write here 99, what will be the answer? The answer is minus 100. Okay, so if I write the generalized formula, so add 1 to x, add 1 to x, so the answer that you get is y, and reverse the sign of y. So the answer is minus, basically the answer, reverse the sign of y, and the answer will be respective that. Okay, if I do, no, it is not a negative sign. Atisham, it is above tab. Can you see a curve sign that you can see? Tiddle, we call it as a tiddle. Yes. Okay. This is a sign for it. Okay. So if the answer is minus 99, if it is minus 99, so what is the output of this? So don't write and tell me the answer. See the equation, tell me the answer. So if I do this and execute it, the answer is 98. So this is the end of what we call as bitwise operators. So in the chat box, all the operation is clear to everyone. Okay, great. The next part that we're gonna see is assignment operators. Okay, assignment operators, or it is also called as the compound operators. So the question which I want to ask you is that store a value 5 to x. Okay, store a value 5 to x Then the next thing what you have to do is add 10 to 5 and reassign to x. So how you will write the equation for these two guys? So can you give the answer? Okay. So the answer, the equation for this will be that store value of 5 to x. So x is equal to 5 and then x is equal to x plus 10. And if you do print of x, the value is 15. The value is 15. Correct? Now, the same equation can be also written as x plus equal to 10. X plus equal to 10. So the expansion of this is nothing but x is equal to x plus 10. Okay. So instead of writing this, you can do x plus equal to 10. Still the answer remains the same. So if I execute it, see the answer is 15. And this and this is called as a compound operator or compound operators. Okay, so can anyone give me the answer for this? If I use negative, what will be the answer of this? Okay, answer will be -5. How? Because this will become x minus, and this is nothing but x equal to x minus 10. Okay, so this is the answer for that. If I do x is equal to 5, and if I do x answer for this is please give me the answer of this. Okay, so Ruma, the answer will be not 2.5 because this is a float division, not a float division. Okay, so answer will be 2, not 2.5. Okay, so if I execute it, if I exit, the answer is 2. So the expansion form of this equation will be x is equal to okay. So this is the answer for this. On the same line, you can do x equal to 5. On the same line, you can do x equal to 5. On the same line, you can do x modulus equal to 5. This will be equivalent to x equal to x into 5. This will be x divided by 5. This will be x modulus 5. Okay, and then you have x equal to 5 equivalent to x power of 5. Then on the same lines, we have x equal to 5. So this is nothing but if I copy this, this will be AND operators. So if I do x or, so x or equal to 5, it means the same. If I do x cap equal to 5, it means the same. If I do x equal to 5, it means the same. And if I do x less than equal to 5, it means the same. And this is what you called as compound operator, guys. So instead of writing like this, you can write like this also. So many people, including me, we generally follow this process. Okay, so if anyone write this kind of stuff, so understand that what they are trying to do here. And this is what you mean by compound operators or assignment operators. All right, Then the next thing that we have is the seventh one. And seventh one, we have something called as identity operators. Identity operators. So for the identity operators, the operands that you use, the operator that you use is and is not. Okay. But what is the purpose of the identity operators? The purpose of the identity operators is they are used to check if two values have the same memory location or not. This is the purpose of the identity operators. Now, to understand this in depth, to make you more clear idea about how Python works, I would like to write something on the, I would like to explain you something. Okay, so let me open the app. Okay, guys, so let's have a 10 minutes break. Okay, so let me have a meditation and I will be back in 10 minutes. Okay. So today, unfortunately, I will take two breaks. One is right now for 10 minutes and one is at, I think, 11 or 11:15. Okay, for 5 to 10 minutes so that I can have a rest of my throat. Okay, I have an cough. So yeah. So guys, if it's okay, right? So can I take a break for 10 minutes? Okay, so I will be back by 10:25. So meanwhile, you guys also can take a break for 10 minutes. Okay. And be here by 10:25 sharp. Okay, so that we can start from where we have left it. Okay, so delete this. Hello. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'm back. So now let me try to make you understand that what happens behind the scene. Okay, what happens behind the scene. So in the coding part, when you write in the coding, when in the coding shell, you write a is equal to 10. So what happens behind the scene in Python is Python has two memory locations. Okay, one is called as a stack area. In the memory location, they have two areas. So one is called as a stack area and one is called as a heap area. Okay, stack area and a heap area. Now, when you do a equal to 10, so what happens is in the stack area, the variable gets stored. The variable get stored, and the heap area, the value is getting stored in the form of an object. Now, the first important thing that you have to keep in mind is every object that you create will always have an address. Okay, they will always have an address. So this heap area will always have an address. So when the 10 is stored in a heap area, it will have an address of, let's say, x101. Guys, this address what I've written here, it's an arbitrary value. Okay, the address is totally different. This is just I'm giving some random addresses here. Okay, so don't think okay it will be x101 only. No, this is some random address. Every object in the heap area will have an address of x or something. Okay, it will have some address. So let's assume that for this 10 we have an address of x101. Okay, now what happens is in the stack area we have a variable a. So we store a variable here and we store the corresponding address also. So which address a is pointing to, you have to write that. So a is pointing to x101. Indirectly this is pointing to this. So what happens is when you do print of A in the coding part, so this A is looked in the stack area. So A is present in the stack area, guys. So if I do A equal to 10 and if I do print of A, so A is present in the stack area. See the diagram and tell me. Okay, again, I will tell you. This is a stack area that we have, right? And when you did A equal to 10, automatically in the stack and the heap area, you get X equal to, the variable A is automatically created. The object is created with some unique memory address, and A will point to that unique address. Okay, and A will point to that unique address. Okay, so now if I do print of A, so the job of the Python is to search whether this A is present in the stack area or not. So A is present in the stack area. Right? A is present in the stack area, right? So, and what is the A that is pointing to? A is pointing to address X101. Okay, so the answer that you get, whatever value is stored in this memory address, that is the answer that you get in the chat box. Okay, that is the answer that you get in the chat, not on the chat box, sorry, the answer in the coding shell. Now, if I do B is equal to 20, if I do B is equal to 20, so the variable that you have is B. 20 will be created here with some unique address, let's say X400. Okay, and B will point to X400. So stack area is kind of kind of an index, guys, which keeps a note that variable A stores in this memory address. Variable B is pointing to this memory address, and whoever is present in the memory address, that particular value will be printed. So this is what happens in the Python, guys. Clear to everyone till here? Now let's try to understand the same thing with the help of a coding part. So let's say you have A equal to 10. Okay, A is equal to 10. Now, if if you do print A, the output is 10. If you want to know what is the address of A which is pointing to, then what you can do is you can do that also. How? You have to use a function, and that function is ID of A. ID of A will give the memory address of that particular location. So see, this is the memory address. This is a memory address where A is pointing to. This is a memory address where 10 is located. Okay, similarly, if I do for A is equal to 20, and if I do print of ID of A, see, the memory address is changed now. Because 20 is some other location, right? So the memory address has been changed. All right, so this is what happens behind the scene in Python when you try to initialize any variables. Now, but what is the job of identity operators? The job of identity operators is to tell you whether the memory address of two variable is same or not. Let's try to see that. And one more point here, it returns the Boolean value. So it tells you yes or no, true or false, whether they are present or not. Okay, this is a job of an identity operator. So that's why the answer will be always in the form of true or false. Okay, so let's see. Suppose you have variable a is equal to 11 and b is equal to 22. Print a is b. So you have to just frame a statement for this. So what I'm claiming here is that the memory address of A is equal to the memory address of B. So my statement, what I'm saying is true or false. It is false, right? So the answer will be false here. Just for a proof, if I show you, if you want a proof, then of course we have a proof also. So if you do print ID of A and print ID of B executed, and clearly on the screen you can see the memory address of these two variables are different, so the answer is false. Okay, let's take one more example. A is equal to 100 and B is equal to 100. If I do print A is not B, what is the answer of it? True or false? Think and give me the answer. So I will tell you one thing. I want you guys to write this, okay, and print the ID of both A and B and give me the answer. Okay, let's try to understand this. Now, if I show you diagram, okay, so let me clear this with a diagram first. Now, the thing here is that you have x equal to 100. So when you do x equal to 100, x will be registered in the stack area and 100 will be here with a unique memory address, let's say x742. Okay. So x is nothing but x is pointing to 742. Okay. When you do y is equal to 200, sorry, wapas 100, sorry. You do y equal to 100. So what happens is it registers the variable y, but 100 is already present, right? So this is called as the memory management of Python. So if a particular thing is already present, so Python will not create an object again. It will just point to 742. So x and y will point to the same memory location. So if I do ID of x, what will be the output? By seeing this diagram? X 742. Similarly, if I do ID of y, what will be the output? X 742. So the memory address is same, right? So this is the point here. Okay. Now, if I come back to this, the thing that I have confused you with is it is not it is not. So if I frame this particular statement, it is the memory address of A is not equal to the memory address of B. So my statement is same or not? My statement is true or false? The memory address of A is not equal to memory address of B. They are equal, right? So my statement is false. So the answer is false. But if you do it is true because the memory address of A is equal to the memory address of B. So the proof is if I do print ID of A, print ID of B, execute it. And clearly on the screen, you can see the same memory address for both A and B. So these are the two concepts that you should know. Now, If these two things are clear to everyone, A is equal to 1000, B is equal to 1000, print A is B. What will be the output of this, guys? Okay, people who are saying true, try it and tell me the answer. What Python gives you the answer? Try it in your Jupyter notebook and tell me what Python gives you. Okay, now you will be saying that, okay, now what we have learned was something else. Now again, what we are doing is something else. Okay, because what is happening is there are some rules. Okay, there are some rules which we have to stay in the rules only. And the rules is, and that rule is called as object reusability rule. A very important interview question, guys. Okay, so if you want, you can mark this. So interview question is object reusability concept. So object reusability concept is, first of all, it is applicable for integers. It is applicable for non-data type. It is applicable for true and false. Guys, when I say object reusability, so the meaning is A equal to 10, B equal to 20. So the same object you can reuse multiple times, right? So that is the meaning of object reusability. So when I talk about object reusability concept, it is possible for integer, it is possible for none, it is possible for true and false, and it is also possible for string. It is also possible for string. Okay, but here is also a but. The but is that for an integer, it is only applicable from -5 to 256. It is only applicable from -5 to 256. And that's the reason that this is giving you the different concept, different answer. Okay, so this is what they have done so that everything stays in the integrity of the Python. Okay, so that's why when I wrote A equal to 100 and B equal to 100, and then we checked the ID was same because 100 was within the limit of integer. But when I did A equal to 1000 and B equal to 1000, it is not in a limit. Okay, so this question will be asked by the interviewer. So you have to tell that for an integer, the object reusability concept is between the range only between -5 to 256. So now it's clear why A of 1000 and B of 1000, the answer you're getting false in a Python. Okay, this is the reason behind it. So for none and for true or false, there is no issues, but for a string also there is a constraint. If your string contains capital A to Z, or if your string contains A to Z, if your string contains 0 to 9, and if or your string contains underscore. If your string is a mixture of these four things, then only the object reusability concept will be there. Otherwise, it will not be there. Let's take an example of this. A is equal to, I write Afsan. B is equal to Afsan. Okay. And if I do print A is B, can anyone tell me the output of this without executing it in your laptop? By looking at this, can you tell me the output? So the answer of this is true. Okay, because if you see, every character is following between the range which I given on the top. If I do A is equal to, let's say, AFS A10, B is equal to AFS A10. If I do print A is B, the answer is still the true. But if I break the law, if I break the thing which is given there, so suppose if I do A is equal to AFSA at the rate 2, here also B is equal to AFSA at the rate 2. Now if I do print A is B, the answer is false. Okay, so these are the things that you have to keep in mind whenever you talk about the object reusability. Whichever things I have not mentioned, so that doesn't follow the object reusability concept. So the things which are remaining is float and a complex numbers. Okay, so this is how the identity operator works, guys, and this is a very important thing. So the interview question, if you want, you can write it. So if I do a equal to 100 and b equal to 100, I get the same memory address. But if I do a equal to 1000 and b equal to 1000, I get different memory address. Why? Okay, so what you have to answer is because in a Python, the object usually concept is applicable for the integer, but the only constraint we have is that the object reusability for an integer is from -5 to 256. So anything beyond 256 or less than -5 will not have an object reusability concept. Okay, so this is how you have to answer it. And this is the end of identity operator, guys. No, float will not be applicable. See, if I have clearly mentioned here that only these fours are applicable. So float is not there, right? So if you want to prove also, see, a is equal to 100.0 and b is equal to 100.0. So if you do print a is b, answer is false. Okay, Disha. So it is not applicable for the float. It is not applicable for the complex numbers also. The next operator that we have, that is the ninth one, and that is nothing but membership operators. Okay, this membership operators is in or not in, but unfortunately this is not applicable for integers. Okay, this membership operator is not applicable for the integers because this membership operator is only applicable for sequence data type. It is only applicable for sequence data type. Okay, so this membership operator, I will tell you when the right time comes. Okay, but we have this operator also called as membership operators. So the operand that we use, the operator that we use is or not, in or not in. So for integers, the membership operators are not applicable. It is only applicable for the sequence data type. So if you're wondering what is sequence data type and all, don't worry, just have patience. I will tell you what is a sequence data type in a while. Okay. The next thing that we go with will be eighth one, and that is nothing but ternary operators. Ternary operators. So the syntax for ternary operator is expression if condition else expression 2. So expression 1, this is 1, sorry. So if I write in the word, result will be expression 1 if condition is true, else condition will be 2. Else the result will be 2, sorry. Result will be the expression 2. Else result will be expression 2. Okay, let's try to understand this. Suppose you write a print statement. Print if 10 is less than 20, then write Afsan. Else Khan. So what do you think with whatever you have understood, what I have written, what do you think the answer will be? Okay, the answer will be Afsan. Why? Because first the condition will be checked. So if 10 is less than 20, the condition is true, right? So if the condition is true, then the result will be expression 1. So expression 1 is what? Afsan hai. So Afsan will be the output. If suppose if I write here 100, so let me execute it. See, Afsan is the answer. If I write here 100 and execute it, then the answer is Khan. Then the answer is Khan. So this is what you called as ternary operator, guys. Okay, this is what you call as ternary operators. Any doubts? All right, guys. So this is what we call as ternary operators. The next thing that we have, okay, how this will be 10, right? Sorry, my bad. This will be 10. Am I following the correct numbers? Okay, 7. This is 8. This is 9. And this is 10th. The 10th one is just for your knowledge. Okay, just for your knowledge, and that is we will learn something about binary representation. Okay, binary representation. For example, let's say if you have a number, let's say 789. Okay, so what will be the binary representation of 789, guys? You already know the answer for this. So how to do it? Which function to call to know the binary representation? Okay, so for the binary representation, there are the few things that you have to keep in mind. The answer will be always in a form of 0 and 1s. That's the first thing. The notation for a binary number will be 0b, and the function that you have to use will be bin function to convert any number to binary number. Okay, so if I want to convert this into a binary number, I have to do print, so not print, my bad. You have to do bin of number. And now if you do print bin number, that is a binary number, execute it, you will get the answer like this. So again, I'm saying, guys, the starting two part that you can see, that is 0b, that is for the representation. So that 0b stands for binary numbers. Now, if I want to convert back again this binary number to a normal number, so what you have to do is you have to just type print 0b and whatever is present inside this, copy and load here, execute it, and the answer is 789. So this part you know. So how to convert to binary and binary to number. Okay. The next thing that we're gonna see, is octal representation. Octal representation. So the first thing that you have to think about the octal representation is 0 to 7. The value will be always between 0 to 7. So octal means how many values, guys? Octal means 8 values, right? Binary means 2 values, so 0 and 1. Octal means 8 values, so the representation will be between 0 to 7, because 0 to 7 are the 8 numbers. Then the representation of the octal is 0 and O. Okay, 0b is for binary, 0o is for octal. And if you want to convert anything into octal, you have to write octal function. So OCT. Okay. Yes, Vedant. Yes. Sure. You can contact me. You can just ping in the group. I will be there in the group to help you. Okay. So guys, if you have any doubts, no. So right now you're understanding everything. But if I give you the assignment, and if you have any doubt, so you can ask in the group, you can discuss among yourself, or you can discuss with me also. Okay. So there's no problem. So from today, I will be start giving you the assignments. Okay. So you have to finish the assignment and you have to submit it. Okay. So let's say you have a number again. So I will take the same number, copy and paste. And just I will do a separation here, print like this. So you have a number, then OCD number is nothing but you have to write OCT. Okay, and then here also you will write OCT. And for right now, I will just comment this out. Execute it, and the answer that you can see is totally different now. The answer is 1425. Okay, this is the octal representation of number 789. Okay, this is the octal representation of number 789. And the same thing, if you again want to revert it back, yes, you can do it. So you just write the same thing what you have written here. So 1425. So 1425, execute it and see, you get the number back. So this is what we mean by octal representation. Then we have something called as hexadecimal representation.
I just have one doubt here. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, go ahead.
So for this, when you're printing binary number, it's fine. But if you number to a variable, how? Hello.
Ruma, I think your voice is breaking a lot. So can you just come again, please?
Yeah. So you are printing the binary number, right? That 0B11. So
Yes.
it is showing the actual number 789. But in case I want to store it in a variable, then how can I store that? Convert it.
You can't store it. That's the point. That is not possible. Yeah. Because see, if you store in a variable, no, so A is equal to, let's think, 0B01111. This is what? This is nothing. This is neither a float, neither a string, neither integer. Do you notice that?
Yes,
it doesn't follow inside any data type. So this is not allowed.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if you do this, see, 0B, and now if you do print of A, you get answer 15. Okay, but if you write the same thing like this, is totally different. What I mean to say is, if you write bin number and bin number, this is not allowed. Getting my point? Because why? Bin number is a string data type. So if you do this, see, getting the point?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you want to store it, you have to write manually or you have to do copy paste. But if you suppose now, so suppose if you are doing bin num and bin num, so this bin num is a string now. It is not this representation. There's a difference. Bin, okay, so if I show you type of A, see, it's a string. But this is a string. No, right? So if you want to store it, unfortunately, you have to write manually everything 0, B, 1, 0, something like that. Then this is allowed. But if you do like this, this is not allowed. Clear now, Ruma?
Yeah. So we have a function to convert to a binary number, but we do not have a function to convert from binary to a number, integer.
No, we have no. See, yeah. Basically, you don't have it. So basically, from this 0B only, Python gets to know that you want to convert into binary. That's why this notation is given. Okay. Similarly, see, if I do octal here also, so I'm giving a representation. So from this only, Python is understanding that I have to convert this into a octal binary representation. Clear? So we don't have a function. Yes, you're correct in that case. Now, when I talk about hexadecimal, okay, so hexadecimal representation is how much value, guys? 16, right? So unfortunately, the keyboard is restricted, right? So we cannot represent 16. So what we do is 0 to 9. 0 to 9 is how much value? So 0 to 9 is 10 values, right? But still we are lying with 6 values. So in that scenario, what we do is, and small a or capital A till small f or capital F. Okay, 0 to 9 and small a, small f, capital F. So A, B, C, D, E, F, 6 plus 10 is how much? 16. So this is how the hexadecimal numbers are represented. The notation for the hexadecimal number is 0x. Okay. And the function to convert any number to hexadecimal is HEX. Okay, let's take an example of it. Copy this, paste here. Okay, so what I will do is I will write here hex. Hex. Okay, and this will be also a hex, HEX. And for right now, I will just comment this out, execute it and see 0x315. So this is how number 789 is represented. If I, let's say, if I write this, see 1388. If I write one, it is 163A95. So this is how the hexadecimal numbers are represented. And if you want to revert it back, so copy this, paste here, execute it, and you will get the answer back. So I will uncomment this, and you get the answer as 1456789 back. Okay, guys. The only thing that you have to note, important point, okay, important, that only integers can be represented in binary, octal, or hexa. And this is the end of integer data type, guys. So all the 10 function, all the 10 methods that, all the 10 properties or the methods that we have seen, it's clear to each and every one of you. So let me write it. And if you want anything to revise, just let me know, okay? The first thing that we talked about was arithmetic operation. Then we talk about something called as comparison operators. Okay. The next that we talk, just give me a second, guys. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm back. So we have seen about the arithmetic operation. We have seen about the comparison operation. Then we have seen about the equality operators. Then after the equality operators, we have seen about the logical operators. Then we have seen about the bitwise operators. Then we have seen about the identity operators. Then we have seen about the membership. But this membership, I have not explained you till now because this is not applicable for integers. Okay, but there is something called as membership. So we have looked at also. Then we have seen the binary, octal, and hexa representation also. So all the 8 things are clear to each one of you. It will be great if everyone gives me the answer. So it will be a clear idea for me also. What about Ruma? Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, one more concept which I want to explain you, which is not related to this integer or anything else. Okay. This is nothing but, I think this you know by the basic one. So operator precedence. So in the mathematics, we used to remember one formula, right, to understand the operator precedence. What was that? So suppose if you have a large equation, so which to solve, the bracket has to solve first, or the plus has to solve first, or negative, or multiplication. So to get the correct answer, we should remember one name, right? What is that name? Okay, so it is called as BODMAS. Okay, BODMAS stands for bracket of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. But unfortunately, that BODMAS cannot be applied here. The reason is we have a lot more symbol here. It is just not 6 symbols, it is a lot more than that. Okay, so that's why BODMAS is not applicable. So what I will do is I will write a table here for you guys. Operator precedence. So the first operator precedence that we have is the bracket. So I'm writing in the order of precedence. Okay, so higher precedence to lower precedence. So first one is the parenthesis. The second one that we have after parenthesis is exponential. Exponent. Then after this, we have a unary operator. So plus x, minus x, and x. So this is nothing but unary plus, unary minus, and the last one is bitwise not. Bitwise not. Then after this, we have multiplication, division, floor division, and modulus. After that, we have plus and minus. After that, we have right shift and left shift. Then we have and. Then we have cap symbol. Then we have or symbol. Then we have the comparison operator. So all the comparison operators like this. Then we have not. Then we have and then we have or. So this is the operator precedence that you have to remember by solving any of the equations. Fifth line. Okay, so fifth line is C. If I write x is equal to 10, minus x is what? Minus 10, correct? Then suppose then plus 10 will be 10, of course, and then this is a tittle sign by a bitwise not, okay, of 10. So it is minus 11. Clear, Atisha? Okay, great. And this is the end of integer data type. Okay. Now, the next important topic that I want to teach you guys is typecasting. Can anyone tell me the meaning of typecasting? Those who know. Okay, so as the name suggests, typecasting is nothing but it is changing from one data type to another. For example, if you want to convert an integer into float, or float into integer, or integer to a string, you can do that with the help of typecasting. So let's try to see that. So if the definition is converting from one data type to another is called as typecasting. Okay, for example, let's try to understand this. For okay, yeah. So A is equal to 10. So if I do print of A, and if I do print type of A. So line number 2, will give me the value and line number 3 will give me the type. So if I execute it, the type is integer. Now, if you want, I will write here something, okay, on the top. If you want to convert anything to integer, integer. If you want to convert anything to float, you have to use float function. So this is integer function. This is float function. If you want to use anything to convert to string, you have to use a string function. If you want to convert anything to Boolean, you have to use the Boolean function. Okay, so these are the functions that we have. So for example, if here you want to convert this integer to float, so what you have to do is, there are two ways. First way is, you do a is equal to float of 10. So this 10 will be converted to float and then it will be stored in a. And then what you can do, print of a, and for the confirmation, what I will do is I will do type of a and execute it. See, in the first way, what is happening is this 10 is getting converted to 10.0 because you are converting into float, and the float representation of 10 is 10.0, and it is getting stored in a and it is getting stored in a. So if you do print of a, the answer is 10.0. If you do print type of a, the answer is float. The answer is float. Okay, on the same line. Now this is the first way. The second way is you do a equal to 10, but while printing it, you do float of a. And just for a confirmation, print type of float of a. Execute it, you get the same answer, 10.0 and the float. But can anyone tell me what is the difference between the first way and the second way? Okay, the difference between the first and the second way is, no, Ruma, in the first also I have done typecasting. See, float of 10. That is also one way of typecasting. Okay, so it's not a correct answer. The correct answer is, in the first way, the a is getting changed, but in the second, a is not getting changed. What I mean to say is, if here, if I, after doing a typecasting, if I do print a, the answer is 10.0. But if I do print a, it is 10. That's the difference between the two. The a is not getting initialized here. In the first one, the a is getting initialized with the float value directly. So that's the difference between the two ways. Okay, and this is what we call as typecasting. Now, for example, let's say a is equal to 10.0, and if you want, so guys, I want you to write a code to convert this a from a float to a string. You can go with any way. Way 1, way 2 is totally up to you, but I want you guys to convert this a in from float to string. Let's see how many of you can do it. Okay, so very straightforward. You just do. So I have seen one of the chat box. Someone has written something like this. Okay, so print str of this a. So this is wrong because this is what? This is a variable a or this is a string a? What do you guys think? This is a string a, right? So this is wrong. Okay, so if you want to convert to string, you just do like this, execute it. Now it is not visible because of the print. So the good thing, to see the answer, so do print type of str of a. So this will give you the clear idea about it. Okay, so never judge by looking it, try to always confirm it. And this is how you convert a float into a string. Okay, now there's one more thing that you have to note. And the thing that you have to note is that b is equal to, let's say, 11.2. And if you want to convert this into float, so what you can do is you can do float of B, and this will be converted to 11.2 float. Okay. But again, a interview question, but B is equal to 11 and print float of, sorry, 11.2, and if you write int of B, this is not allowed. This is not allowed because when you try to convert into integer, that dot will be considered as a special character because it is inside a quotes. Okay, so you cannot convert a floating string into an integer directly, but we should have a way, right? So can anyone, so suppose the use case is you have to convert that 11.2 string to an integer 11. How can I do it? So this way is not possible, which I have shown on the screen. So which way we can do it? Yes. Okay. So the important point to note here is that in the programming world, no, you will not get the answer directly for everything, but you can always get the answer in an indirect way. And the answer is, and the example is this. We have seen clearly that it is not possible to convert a floating string to an integer. But if you know Python, indirectly you can do it. And the answer is given by everyone in the chat box. That first convert to float, because that is possible, right? Convert to float and then convert to integer. We got the answer. So what you do is C is equal to float of B. Okay, and then int of C executed, and the answer is 11. Okay, that is important learning, guys, here. So for everything you will not have a function, but if you know Python, you can achieve it by your own programming skills. Okay, and this is what you called as typecasting. So typecasting is clear to everyone. All right, excellent. Then the next important thing that is very important to go ahead with Python is input and output function in Python. Okay, input and output function in Python. So the first thing that we're going to see is input function and then the output functions. So input function is nothing but taking the input from the users. Taking the input from the users is called as the input functions. Okay, let's take an example. Suppose A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20. And if you do print A plus B, okay, A plus B, the answer of this will be 30. But what if you want this value of A and B to be asked by the user? I want this A and B to ask from a user. Okay, suppose, so I should get a pop-up, please enter the value, and you should enter the value, and then only you should get the answer. To get that, what you have to do is you have to use something called as input. And inside this, write a message for the user. So enter the number. Input, enter the second number. Okay, right now I will just show you everything step by step. So if I do print of A and if I do print of B, if I do print of A and if I do print of B and execute it, see, now it is asking for the number. So whatever you write inside a input statement, that becomes a message for a user. So if you write enter a number, so now you're getting enter a number and the box is there. So you have to enter a number. So let's say I put 10. Enter. Then enter the second number. So you have to enter the second number. Press enter. And the print of A and B is 20. Okay, print of A is 10 and print of B is 20 respectively. The thing which I want you to do is, I want you guys to tell me the type of A and B and what conclusion do you make on that. Again, give me the type of A and B. You write the code, see it, test it, and tell me the answers. Okay, so if you see it, it will be str of A. It is str of A. Oh, sorry, my bad. Type of A. So sorry, type of A. Execute it, 10 and 20, and the type is string. So the conclusion that you make here is that input function will always return a string data type. Okay, input function will always return a string data type. So I will make a note here for you guys. Input function will always return a string data type. But the problem with this is that if I want to do print A plus B, that is possible now. If I want to take the two numbers from the user and if I want to add it, so this code would have written you. Is that possible to do it here? So what do you think we should do? Exactly. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to do a typecasting. The if you know Python, you have every solution for it. Okay, so what you can do is you can write this input function inside the int. You can write this input function inside the int. So whatever user gives, so if the user gives 10 or 20, it will be converted to an integer and then only it will, so see 10, 20, it is integer, and now if you are doing A plus B, it is 10 plus 20, that is 30. And this is the solution for it. Okay, this is a solution for it. So we have seen the problem. So we have two solutions. So I will write here everything step by step. So there are two ways to do this. The first way we have already seen, that is typecasting. The second way of handling this kind of situation is using eval function. Using eval function. Okay. So now, can anyone tell me what is the problem in this way? If I write the code in this way, what is the problem? Copy. Think, okay, think and give me the answer. What is the problem in this way? Think, guys, think. High order thinking skills question this is. Wrong value entered, it will give an error. Risham, what do you mean by wrong value here? Different data type you mean to say? Okay, okay. So what Gurpreet and Adisham is saying is, if you do 11.2, can you convert string of 11.2 into a float, into a string integer? So if you do this, this will give an error, that is value error. Okay, so it is one of the solution, but this is not a perfect solution. So that's why we have a second function also, and that is the eval function. So a is equal to eval, and inside this write input of enter the, okay, so I will copy this, I will paste here, and I will write eval. I will write eval. Now if I execute it, so you will get enter the number. Now enter the number. If you write 10 and if you write 20, the answer is 30. But the importance of the eval functions comes here. If you write, oh, sorry, if you write 11.2 and if you write 22.2, it will handle that also, and the answer will be 33.4. This is a beauty of eval function, guys. So eval functions understands what you are writing and tries to convert into the respective data type. For example, C. So eval function, if I write, the only constraint here is you have to write a proper data type. If it's a string, it should be inside a quote. If it's a Boolean value, T should be capital. If it's a complex, A plus 4J, everything should be very perfect here. What I'm going to say is C. Now, if I write Afsan, so this Afsan will be a string. This Afsan is a string, or it's a variable. For the eval, okay, think in a case of eval. It will act as a variable, okay? So that's the important notice that I want to make it clear, that if you want to write it, if you're using eval function, then you have to write a proper string that should be inside a quote, okay? Then see KHAN, and it is string. That is an important thing that you have to put in eval. But eval, see, eval is handling every kind of situation. It is handling integer also, float also, string also. So everything it is handled by the eval function. So you have a two way of doing it. One is using typecasting and one is using eval function. So these two ways are clear to everyone. If anyone has a doubt, try it. Take your time, try it. If you want, I will give you the code also. Copy, paste.
Affirm.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I try to do it with my name, as in a string, I have faced a trace back, and the error is name Veena is not defined.
Yes, because name Veena is not defined is because you are using eval, right? Yes, Veena.
Yeah, I'm using eval.
Okay, so when you write Afsan, see, if I write Afsan also, okay, let me write also Veena. Veena, if you type, press enter, name is not defined, see.
Correct.
So Veena is what? Veena is a string, right?
Correct.
So you have to write a proper string. How to write a string? Inside a single quote, double quote, triple quotes, right? So you have to write like that.
Okay.
So when you use the eval function, no, you have to write a proper data type. Clear? So
Yeah.
now it will work. See, Veena, and if I do X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X, enter. See how it's working. Got the point, Veena?
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is what we have about the input function, guys. Okay, guys. So what I will do is I will stop here. Okay, I will stop here. So I think this is more than enough to keep you this 5 days busy. And if anyone has it, so what? So okay. So as a programmer, okay, for the future, I hope everyone has an account on LinkedIn. Everyone has an account on LinkedIn. If not, please make one with a proper profile. The second thing is every topic will have an assignment. Every topic will have an assignment and you have a week to complete it. For example, I have completed today, right? So today, Monday, I have completed 2 days classes, right? So from Monday to Friday, you have to do the assignment, and on Saturday and Sunday, you have to submit the assignment. So every topic will have assignment and you have to do it. Is that clear to everyone? Okay, this will make you confident whether you know the particular topic or not. Okay, and some of the assignments are tough, which requires a research work. Okay, but if you understood my things and if you do a little bit of hard work, no, you will get that answer also. And that I have done purposely because what I teach and when you do by yourself, they are two different things. Okay, so you will learn when you try to do yourselves. Okay, so try to solve as many problems as you can. So we have covered about the basic Python. We had covered about the integer part, right? So I will give you the assignment on integer. I will give the assignment on integers. Okay, so I will stop here now.